welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, and today's guest, I'm super stoked because this woman is on a mission. Vivian Chen is actually a mission-driven, venture-backed entrepreneur and a lifelong champion of diverse voices. Oh, this is going to be so good. So prior to founding Heyo, and Vivian is actually the operator and a strategic consultant with companies like L'Oreal, Bain Capital, and the AARP of all things, right?
Yeah.
So
Quite different.
It's different. It's so different. That's why I'm really excited to have you on with us, because not only then did she go and start up Rise in 2019 and then Heyo in 2022, with the intention to empower professionals to go further and faster and doing it on their own terms. She's been featured in Forbes and Fast Company and Business Insider and just a ton of other media outlets, while also championing the DE&I, which for those of you that don't know that acronym yet, it's the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion. So I'm excited to have Vivian join us on Creating Powerful Impact stage. Thanks for being here, Vivian.
Thank you so much for having me. This is going to be a really great conversation. I'm so excited to dive in further with you.
I am too, because there's so many different ways that we can take this conversation. One, entrepreneurship, changing careers, growth, personal branding, startup journey, how you've scaled your businesses, how are you doing 2 different businesses, and then the community aspect of it all.
Yeah.
Right? So, just little topics, nothing huge. Out of all of that, what is it that you would want to kind of start with, or is really kind of on your heart?
Yeah. The thing that I want to talk about is the journey of the different transitions that I've had in my life, and how, continuously redefining what it is for me to find meaning and to find purpose in work. We show up to work from 9 o'clock in the morning, sometimes earlier as a founder, until, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, and then having a difficult time to turn off our brains on the weekends. This journey that I've had from, when I graduated school 12 years ago to that first job, and then the slow growth and evolution over time to create the job and the roles that I have today, and the learnings along the way for that.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about that story and that journey.
Yeah. So, I think of my journey so far as in chapters. So the first chapter is really the background of who I am. I actually was born in China, and I moved to St. Louis, Missouri when I was 8 or 9 years old, and then grew up there in the Midwest as one of the only Asian Americans in school. So growing up, I have this joke where in elementary school, I was, I think, the only East Asian in my class, and they used to pull me out to go to the library to take photos of me. He's like, hey, come, Vivian, come here and pretend to read a book, pretend to, play ball. And I didn't understand what it was all about until actually much further along in my life, when I realized that it was about representation, because there were so few people that looked like me. Coming from that background where there weren't a lot of people that looked like me, from an immigrant family, I always worked really hard, and I was really interested in business from a very young age. But in the Midwest, my definition of business is very different than those of folks who grew up in West Coast, in Silicon Valley, or the ones in the East Coast, where they have exposure to financial services and consulting and all these other industries. To me, in the Midwest, business was you have a product or service and you sell it to people and you make money from that. And then you do more of that to hopefully create an impact for the end consumers and the world at the same time. So, sort of towards the end of that chapter 1 for my life is I went to university in Philadelphia. I studied business, marketing, management, and operations. And then that kind of kicked off the chapter 2 of my life, which is I joined a Fortune 500 company, the world's largest beauty company, L'Oreal. And I had the opportunity to work with some of the most exciting brands in the world. Brands like Lancome, Kiehl's, Garnier, where literally millions of consumers use the products daily. And it was really there that I learned, how do you sell your tube of lipstick, versus someone else's tube of lipstick? Because at the end of the day, it's kind of the same, what's on the inside and what it looks like once you apply it on yourself. And it taught me the idea of that a product or service is bigger than the thing itself. It's about the stories behind it, the creation, the journey, who was it, the intentions behind it. It was right around this time, about 5 years into my career at L'Oreal, that I started seeing my friends starting to move to Silicon Valley and join technology startups. And
come to our side of the States. Come to our side.
The other side of the state, exactly, the other side of the country. And I had what I will call millennial FOMO. Working in corporate, I had, I think, 10 days of vacation. I worked in a cubicle without a window. So, seeing sunlight was something that was very precious to me. And all my friends started to get these jobs at these cool, disruptive companies where they had kombucha on tap and ping pong tables and unlimited vacation. That was something that was a big one for me. And I said, hey, I want to try that out. I want to be in a disruptive industry. And I started applying for jobs in tech. Unfortunately, with only about 4 or 5 years of experience under my belt, people started to typecast me as the type of professional that I am. When they saw L'Oreal and all these brands on my resume, they, cast me as an outsider, which I was, right? And did not give me the chance to even let me inside the doors. So I applied to over 150 positions, and I kept on getting rejected or just flat out ghosted. And that feeling of self-doubt, worthiness, the overwhelming, the hopelessness, all of that from that job search process was something that stayed with me. And I think that's one of the, inspirations for why I started the companies that I did. Eventually, I did land in tech, and I was very lucky to witness the very early stages of a company all the way until, Series C of a company. And I said, this is what I want to do. I want to build my own tech company to help other people to not feel what I felt when I was making those career transitions, especially those that come from diverse voices, that come from non-traditional backgrounds, who, made a decision when they were 17 years old, and the world is changing so rapidly, and now they're shut out of entire industries. So, Rise it was the first sort of manifestation of that, where we built a diversity-focused career community and platform to make the job search and job transition process more inclusive, supportive, community-driven. And Rise has been around since 2019. And in the last few months, we also launched a new product called Heyo, which takes the offering to the next level. We enable people to record short video intros of themselves, or even audio intros of themselves, to share more about their story, about who they are, why they're interested in the particular industries, walk people through their career journeys, or even have testimonials from former colleagues and bosses. So, my life is centered around helping people unlock their inner potential and to go further, faster on their own terms, because so much of our lives is dedicated to work, and it's important that we have meaning, purpose, and intentions in that sphere.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the whole basis of how it got started and why it got started in the first place is from your own experiences. So you've pulled upon everything that you've had to get these two companies up and running. I would love to start now kind of looking at, okay, let's start a tech company. Right? Not only did you start one, then you started another one. How in the world? So let's fast forward. How in the world are you continuing to have two companies running and continuing to grow them and scale them. Like, it kind of boggles my mind a bit. So if you wouldn't mind sharing like some of those behind the door secrets of what supports you in moving these things forward and not pulling your hair out.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I first started, like you mentioned, like, building a tech company, that sounds so daunting, right? And I had no idea what I was doing because, my prior life, I was a consumer goods, a beauty marketer. And I spent most of my life prior to joining the startup world, making PowerPoint decks, spending my time in Excel. I'm really good at those things. But, when you do those things, it's sort of the busy work that is needed when you work in a larger corporation to report, to synthesize, to provide analysis, right? Because there are many people that are making decisions. You might not be making decisions. You might not be creating anything. But in my job as an entrepreneur, my job is to build, is to create. If I don't do something, it doesn't get done, everything from, the very beginning, right? Like, what name, what structure to have the company, what logo, what social media accounts. Like, if I don't do that, it doesn't exist. To later on, things like talking to customers, finding customers, convincing customers, learning how to fundraise, learning how to hire, learning how to, grow the business when COVID happens, when the market drastically changes, and all those things. I didn't know any of these things. And everything, I actually had to unlearn some of the things that I learned while I was in corporate. And that bias for action was definitely something that took me a while to, realize I spent too much time thinking and not enough time actually just hitting the ground running and doing things. And, now, we have two products, and how do we sort of manage our progress going forward? It's kind of the same thing that I did when I started to move one step at a time to build towards that future. And it's identify things that will move the needle on the one goal that is the most important for your company. So this is the North Star goal, right? So what is that one metric that you want to focus on for your company, and have everyone else have visibility, understand that deeply, and evaluate and prioritize every action they take on whether or not it's going to contribute to the growth of that one metric. There are lots of times, we have boundless ideas. I'm very blessed that I have an amazing team, and everyone is kind of like an outsider. We're definitely like non-traditional backgrounds. Our designer is a self-taught designer who used to be an acrobat in a circus. Our engineer is a college dropout who's been coding since he was a teenager. Our head of marketing, she is a homeschool kid who, had a very non-traditional background before joining our company. So all of these things, make us look at the world differently, but also means that, we're also constantly learning because we don't come from a background where things were handed to us. Mm-hmm. So when we're prioritizing, when we're thinking, like there are lots of things that we could be doing, but then, what is our North Star goal? Does this move the metric on our North Star goal? Or do we, if it doesn't, let's put it on the back burner and evaluate that later.
So it's really prioritizing that one thing at a time. Yes. And then just streamlining like all of your operations and all of the business. Yep. With that one thing. Yep. Yeah, I think there's actually a book called The One Thing. For that reason, right? You're known for that one thing. You're focusing on that one thing and making that grow versus trying to spin a bunch of different plates all at the same time.
Exactly. And one of the things that I do is, I am at the end of the day accountable for the metrics and the numbers, right? The rest of the team is there to, help me move things along, but I am the one that is reporting the numbers back to the team on a weekly basis. So every Friday, I'll take a screenshot. I'll say, this is where we were last week. This is where we are this week. what's the change, whether it's up or down, and then commentary on what worked, what didn't work, and what needs improvement for the weeks going forward. I think it just provides very top level clarity. It's both a moment of reflection, celebration, but also improvement. So that every week it's like, okay, this worked, great, let's do more of it. This didn't work, let's reevaluate and do something else, right? Or do we want to try a different angle, and just keep on doing that? And when you do that, when you have that type of discipline, you really do see the numbers start just going up, and it makes it crystal clear.
Wow. And then that helps you like making decisions moving forward of what needs to happen next versus just like throwing spaghetti against the wall or something, right?
You're still in some ways throwing spaghetti at the wall, but you're measuring which one is sticking, I guess.
That one stuck. All right. Why did that one stick?
That's exactly it, right? And it's like, that one moved the needle. Let's go for that one.
I love that. Oh my God. So before we jumped on here, we were talking a little bit about community. I would love for you to share more about your perspective on community and how our listeners can maybe incorporate including more community or creating a stronger community from your perspective.
Yeah. Community is oftentimes used as a buzzword. You could have a community as simple as a Slack group, a Facebook group, an email listserv, a newsletter, right? Those could be community, but the most impactful communities are the ones in which people could shed their shell and be who they are, show up vulnerably, and be able to feel like it's a safe space where they can connect, both offer as well as receive from the group itself. One of the ways that we thought about community, this is pre-COVID, was we went to different cities. I'm based in New York City, but we also went to Boston, Massachusetts, Austin, Texas, San Francisco. And we put people together in a room, and we encourage people to bond over shared experiences. We also made it very interactive, very experiential. I think a lot of times, when you go to a networking event, it's kind of like everyone wearing a name tag, holding some sort of drink, and having brief conversations with each other. One of the events that we had this is before COVID, and our audience for this event was primarily women, especially a lot of mid-career women who were perhaps thinking about transitioning into freelancing or working for herself. And one of the things that we did was we actually had a coloring book station. It sounds, really like, what is that, right? But when you have that intentional space, people sat down and they not only grabbed a book, and they started having conversations with each other. They started bonding together, talking about, hey, what are the things on your mind, right? And that was the kind of safe environment that we wanted to provide people, where immediately it feels like you're doing something that is nurturing, encouraging, takes you outside of the traditional networking mindset, and you can connect on a deeper level with someone. So when I think about community, when I think about making connections, it's about what is the fastest way for someone to get to know me and my essence, rather than the Vivian that sometimes shows up to investor meetings or, on certain Zoom calls where I feel like I have to wear a suit and tie, have to put on the work version of myself, right? And let's break that down a little bit and let's get to the human side of who we are.
Beautiful. And is that kind of what helped spark the second company then?
Yes, absolutely. It is truly, especially in a world now where there's so much conversations around AI. We were I was talking to a couple of folks who are in the job market. They're saying that I found these bots that can apply to thousands of jobs for me with the click of a button, right? And one person does that, two people does, everyone does that, then everything is going to look the same. It's very generic. We're starting to lose the humanity in that. And we know that recruiters on the other side oftentimes will use bots to sort through people, go through LinkedIn, go through resumes, right? So then it just become a bunch of bots talking to each other, and we're missing the beautiful stories that we have on our own journeys, why we do what we do, what was the motivation behind it. Why did I start to build my company Rise? Because of that experience that I had. Mm-hmm. So I believe in a future where people need to be more human, right? Like, yes, AI is probably here to stay, but that just means that we need to do things that robots can't do yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do the same thing when we're doing events. It's like, how are we creating it as an experience versus just watching a virtual screen and sitting on Zoom for 8 hours in a day? How do you make it experiential? How do you have that community? How do you build that connection with other individuals that are across the world? I mean, that is the beauty that we've gotten out of it, is we can now, talk to people across the world at the same time, but we have to still bring in that human experience to it. And it sounds like that's part of, your guys' mission of moving things forward.
That's exactly it. I think, like, regardless of the product, whether it's Rise or it's Heyo, the sort of central thread and the philosophy behind it is to help people not be afraid of showcasing who they are authentically, and to be able to tap into that to go further, faster on their own terms.
Yeah, I love it. And it sets you apart, right? And it's like, oh, because I even remember when I hired my first team member, there were 2 applicants. One had more of the skill set I was looking for, but the other one had the personality that I could hang out with. And I chose the personality. She's been with me for as long as I've had the company, right? It's like, you can teach the skill, but the personality, I think, is the bigger fit overall.
Right. The fit there, I think, is so important. And the not just the personality, but the hunger, the growth mindset of the passion for the industry and the product. When I think about the team members that we have, what makes everyone work so well together is that we've all experienced those things in our lives. So we tend to think differently and be able to not afraid to challenge each other so that we can be better, because that's the goal. It's not about who's right, but how can we be better?
Yeah, exactly. Vivian, this has been amazing. Time has flown by. So I would love for you to share a little bit of like, how can they find out more about you, your companies, and, do you happen to have a gift if the audience is looking forward?
Absolutely. So you can learn more about Rise at joinrise.co. That's joinrise.co. And you can also sign up for Heyo, which is a free product for any professionals to tell your story. It's Heyo, HEYO.AT. And you can customize your own link so that mine is just Heyo at Vivian. We can have Heyo at Shay, Heyo at Danny. So make sure to claim your unique URL. And as a gift, I will love to share with the listeners and offer a free job listing for 30 days on our Rise platform for free. To claim this free offer, you can email hello@joinrise.co.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Vivian. That's very, very sweet and kind of you. Definitely make sure that you go to the show notes and you pick those gifts up and take a look at claiming your free URL too. I think that's really super important. Yeah. Now, before I totally let you go, what would be a takeaway or a memorable note that you would like to leave our audience with today?
Yeah. I think we're at a very interesting economic environment right now. There's a lot of changes, both in terms of, I'm in the tech world, but it's kind of the economic impact that we're feeling in multiple industries, layoffs, hiring freezes, people considering different careers and transitions, as well as the emergence of AI. There's just a lot of conversations around what is going to be the future. And if there's one thing that I can leave you with, it's to tap into what makes you you, because the robots are not going to be you. Someone else, it does not have the journey that you've walked through. So think back deeply about what is your unique advantage and what it is that you want to create into the world, and lean into that. That'll make the rest of your journey much smoother and much more enjoyable.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you being with us here today. And then I also want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm excited for you to take all the lessons and all the resources and all of the just diamonds that she's been dropping here today and really start looking at implementing them so that you can create even more impact in your world. So until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.